Welcome back to Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle 4, and here we're taking on World 5. This is a pretty interesting world where, you have a lot of vines to climb up of, and, the main gimmick in this world is going to be the waterfalls, and whenever you fall down the water, or, fall into water, you end up getting, washed ashore somewhere else, and, you do end up surfacing, but it does take a lot of time to, get back to where you are going when you end up falling. You also do lose a, 1 heart worth of health, so that's something you do have to keep in mind as you're going through this place. Because of this, some of the pathways are blocked off thanks to waterfalls, and you do have to take the long way to get to a lot of different places. An example in that log you saw, if you fell from that higher part of the level, you would have broken the log and then end up falling into the water. But if you were standing on it, you would have been just fine. Just something to keep in mind while you're playing this level. And now I'm going to get into one of the biggest issues with the entire Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle series according to some people. And I think this game actually would have benefited from it a little bit better, is the fact that you can't jump in this game. And I can see why they did that in the first Crazy Castle game, because that game did a pretty good job of negating any need for a jump feature by... any need for a jump function, and they did this by putting you in narrower spaces where even if you could jump, you really wouldn't be able to do much with it. And they had narrower spaces between the floor and the ceiling, and they also had narrower spaces in where you could drop down from. And I thought the level design in that game was pretty good, and they did a good job of negating any need for it. In the second game, they did have those narrow spaces, but they also had some wide open spaces you could use the up panels for, and that was pretty much your de facto jumping throughout that game. And the second game also did a good job of negating any need for a jump function, but they did use the up panels, and when they introduced that, they kind of opened up a can of worms that ended up following them all the way to the last game in the series. And in this game, since there are so many more wide open spaces, and you will see this again in World 6, since there are so many wide open spaces, it actually would have been beneficial to have a jumping, or make Bugs Bunny be able to jump. Oh, and for this log you have to go across. It is kind of wonky though with it, so just make sure you time it right and you'll be fine. But yeah, the reason this game would have benefited from having a jump is because there are a lot more wide open spaces, and there's a lot more dropping down, there's a lot more backtracking, and I think jumping actually would have made the backtracking a lot less of a pain. And especially when you're playing in wide open levels like this, and you'll see this again in other worlds, but when you're playing in wide open spaces like this, it is actually better to have a jumping feature. Oh, and just in case you fell in the water, you would have ended up here. Just something to remember. But yeah, the other games did a good job of not having any need for it, but I don't think this one did as good a job. And here I am getting the lightning and trying to take out this gorilla. I think I'm trying to take out Wile E. Coyote too. And Wile E. Coyote has the same pattern as a lot of the other enemies in this game. He just runs after you. That's pretty much it. And you already saw the gorilla and the buzzard before, so no real need to explain those enemies here. And just drop down to the left, and you're gonna find the exit. Here in Stage 5 too, there are going to be more waterfalls, and this is where they kind of start turning the heat up on having different waterfalls block off certain paths, and also you having to take the long way to get to plenty of places. Also, enemies can fall into the water too, and when they do, they end up surfacing over to the right somewhere. But naturally, they don't get hurt from it because, you know, they're the bad guys and you're not. But, see, moving onward, Yosemite Sam is back as usual. And the biggest issue with him is when he ever ends up blocking you, or end up catching you off guard. Or he could end up surrounding you with another enemy, and when that happens, then you're gonna end up running into trouble. So right now what I'm trying to do is just wait for him, and then just push the 100-ton weight into him. Even though I probably could have taken out the fox, that probably would have been better for me long term. But fortunately, since I do have 2 balloon bombs, I think I'll be alright. Fortunately, the keys in this stage aren't too tough to find, but the biggest thing is going to be just navigating around the narrower space, especially since the space gets cut off, or gets a lot more cut off in this area, or in this world, compared to any of the other levels. I think this is really the only world where they introduce a gimmick like the water. I mean, they did have different gimmicks all over in this game, but I think the only one that really made the game, I guess, a little bit more challenging was the water. And here's the one spot where you had to go to get to a key, especially since there's a buzzard blocking it. He can be kind of a pain, but I actually did learn that you can run past him when he's not flying. When he is flying, if you run into him, he ends up hurting you. So, just a short little backtrack here. Unfortunately, commentating over this has been a lot easier since, I don't really have to prepare myself for like a 30-minute video or 25-minute or something like that. Which is one reason I stuck to shorter games. Is mainly because I can just space them out properly and also commentate over them while I can. And, let's see, right here I'm just waiting for Yosemite Sam. Not much. But yeah, after this, I'm probably just gonna get back to doing what it is I normally do. Which is probably just gonna be like shorter NES stuff. Actually, there is one game I have on the horizon that's not gonna be that short, and I do have to figure out how to space it. But I think it's actually gonna be a lot of fun to play. But you'll find out what it is soon enough. And there's that fox almost catching me off guard. Which is something that is a pretty big problem in this game. Or something I had a lot of trouble with. I think that might have had more to do with the screen crunch than anything else, really. And, let's see, what I have to do is I have to take the certain doors to... Or not the certain doors, just the different ladders to get to everything. And they must really have no faith in you if they're putting this many health power-ups in this stage. Which is something that actually will happen in this stage and then the next stage. And which is kind of unfortunate. But I mean, if you did, if you were playing this your first time and you didn't know where any of the water hazards were, then yeah, I could kind of see a need for it. But I think 4 or 3 or however many they had might have been a little much. Either way, I do have to backtrack here in order to get to one of the keys. It's a pretty short backtrack, as you can see. Yeah, see, I needed to take the other way instead of going up. That is something you do have to be aware of while you are playing this level, is that a lot of the keys, just like most of the other previous levels, a lot of the keys are going to be in out-of-the-way places. And, that's just something you do have to worry about. It's a little bit easier to predict the keys that way when you keep that in mind. And see, right here I just need to leave a trap for the fox. I don't think there are any other enemies down there, but I might be wrong. Also, they really start ramping up the number of fake treasure chests when you come across the rooms with 2 of them. See, right here should be another one. Unfortunately, getting a gun will make things a little bit easier, since it is a little bit easier to use the gun instead of the balloon bomb, as I've said before plenty of times in this series. I think I just decided to get greedy and go for this last one. But either way, this stage really isn't too bad, just a matter of knowing where the hazards are, as well as just being aware of your enemies and being aware of your surroundings. It is pretty easy to get the enemies to go into the water. And then the problem with that is they can pool up in the bottom and they can be a problem then. And right here I'll just dispose of the vulture and finish the level. And now for the last level for today. Or for this part. And I don't really know why they decided to put a health upgrade or health power up this early in the level. I mean, unless you decide to go down first. I don't really get why they thought that was a good idea. Then again, there's a lot of other weirdly placed power-ups in this stage. And there's a few more that I'll probably end up complaining about at some point in this game. And just like the previous level, the waterfalls do block off the number of places that you can go. And the biggest thing you do have to watch out for is just getting trapped between an enemy and a waterfall. But fortunately, the waterfalls aren't that big a problem when you know what's happening. When you don't know what's happening, then yeah, it's going to be a pretty big issue. Like that one that was on the right. That one actually takes you back a really long way, so they both end up depositing you in the same spot, but it is actually going to be a real pain if you do end up falling in the water repeatedly. Which I can see why they, like I said before, I can see why they had all those health power-ups, but I don't really get why they had one so early in the level. So what I'm doing here is just trying to make sure to get through all the doors. And, in this world, I think I pretty much said everything I needed to. But I mean, see, I've recorded pretty much up to the castle. I mean, I still have to actually start recording those castle levels. I think I'll probably get to that soon. And there's this coyote falling into the water. And that's where Yosemite Sam and some of those other sideways pacing enemies can be a trouble, or be a pain, is if one of the other enemies is chasing you, but then the other ones, like either the vulture or Yosemite Sam, is blocking the path you need to go through. So then either you do have to end up using one of your weapons or taking a hit, which in this particular level, weapons are actually pretty hard to come by. In the other levels, they were actually just fine. And here I went the wrong way. So by the magic of editing, I had to cut out my backtracking. And I think balloon bombs are actually the only weapons you can get in this level. Because the biggest thing with the gun is that it does make the stage a little bit different. Oh, actually, I think I do end up getting a gun in this stage. Never mind. So all I'm trying to do here is just wait out some of these enemies. I think there might be a log here. Yeah, see, if I fell from a bigger distance, then I actually would have broken the log and then, well, bigger distance than that. But I actually would have broken the log and then end up washing away in the waterfall. But that is really the only gimmick you have to watch out for in this stage. Other than that, this world actually isn't that bad. It's really just a matter of managing, or introducing you to the gimmick and then just testing your ability to play through it. Or not play through it, but use it to your advantage. Which is one thing you can do if you do know how to handle the enemies. And here I think I'm being smart by planting the balloon bomb to trap Coyote, but then he ends up running into the water anyway. Which is something I actually did end up using to my advantage pretty well in this stage. And once again, here's another weirdly placed power-up. It's good to see where that would have been useful if you were like being chased by Coyote or something. Or coyotes. And then, I don't know, other than that, that's pretty much it. So, here I'm actually in for some backtracking because, I did have to go across the waterfall in order to get down to get to these doors. The, doors themselves are actually fine, but the biggest thing is just the way to get to them. They do actually turn down the number of enemies in this stage compared to World 4, which is either a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you want to put it. Because in World 4 there were definitely a lot more enemies, But I guess they figured since the waterfall counts as damaging you, they just figured that that would be a better idea. Or a better replacement for having a ton of enemies. I don't know, I mean either way I'm okay with it. So right here what I have to do is just I guess yeah, see, this is where I end up getting the gun. Here I do have to backtrack back to where I needed to go in the first place. Yeah, see, right there is where you can actually end up getting caught off guard if you end up dropping on too far down. Here I get shot in the face and decide to make it up, or return the favor. But as I was saying before, it's pretty easy to end up getting, or falling from going too far down one of the vines, and they actually do like to trick you like that in this game. Just because this game is kind of a tricky bitch like that. And here I am, or I might be in trouble, but fortunately I did end up getting a weapon out of the treasure chest. So I can just whack Coyote with it. And here I'm in for one more backtrack. It's not that bad though, but it is still something that makes the stage a little bit inconvenient, but at the end of the day it's really not that bad to deal with. Here I was worried about falling into a water hazard. And with the last key, let's just go ahead and get this over with. And see, the best way is just to go up, and then the exit's actually pretty far up, so that's a pretty far distance for me to go up. Now I was about to take the ladder. But after taking the ladder and taking several other ladders after that, I will see you in the next part, where we finish World 5.